I mentioned that 12 years ago, I started interviewing the best. People that have had a profound influence on me in terms of my thinking about business and success. And one of the first people I interviewed is our next guest. Our next guest knows firsthand about success and has shaped television as it is in this country. Before being the Director General of the BBC, he was Editor-in-Chief of TVAM. He was Director of Programmes for TVS. He was Chief Executive of London Weekend Television, a Director of Channel 4, and Chairman and Chief Executive of Pearson Television. Such was his impact on the BBC that his resignation prompted an unprecedented response when thousands of BBC staff took to the streets to protest. Under the interview spotlight today, I hope you'll join me in welcoming Mr. Greg Dyke. Well, Greg, if you heard any of my presentation, I was talking about winning attitude.
You ended by asking what did you achieve. I got up the M1 without getting stuck in a traffic jam. That was a major achievement, I thought, today.
But in terms of attitudes, do you hold my contention that attitude and behaviour are critical for success?
Yeah. The people who succeed are the people who are either brave enough or foolish enough to go for it.
And it's having the courage then just to go for it.
Well, I'd say it's both ways, because I mean, I'm one of those sort of incredibly optimistic human beings who believes everything's going to work. So it comes as a great shock to me when things don't. And I remember a few years ago going around a number of American companies that had done quite interesting things, and I went to a place called Southwest Airlines in Dallas. And it's a famous business school case now, Southwest Airlines. And I remember the guy who's running it there, fascinating bloke, turns up every morning on his Harley and the rest of us. But I remember saying, we employ for attitude. We can teach you skills. We employ for attitude. We want the positive people. And I think over the years that's the conclusion I've reached, that actually what you want is the people who think they can do it.
Yeah. And trying to sort of break down that attitude in terms of sort of personality characteristics. When you're recruiting, what sort of characteristics are you looking for in someone?
Well, you're looking for oddballs, aren't you, really? I think you're looking for people who are a bit different, you know. I mean, in the television industry, you know, you put an ad in for something, you get 20,000 applicants. And I always say to anybody who's applying, for God's sake, just put something funny in your application, because when you've read 10,000 applicants or 500 or something, you're looking for anything that's different, anything that's exciting, that's funny, anything that makes you laugh. And I think you're looking for character and personality, you know, which is, it's interesting at a place like the BBC, because the BBC historically has taken its people, you know, what they call the brightest and the best, you know, i.e. they came into the English public school system and Oxbridge. And of course, they're not necessarily the most exciting people.
Yeah. I mean, doing some sort of...
I mustn't let my old bias come out, should I?
Doing some sort of self-analysis.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that.
What do you think has been key to your success?
Well, everybody has luck, right? Luck's up there. You've got to be in the right place, right time, right people, someone spotted, something like that. So luck is important. As I say, I have always believed everything is going to be fine. I never believed. I mean, when I went to TVAM, it came as a great shock to me to get there all those years ago, to discover the place was in chaos and bust. You know, they'd offered me all this money to come, which made no difference whatsoever because they didn't have any. And when I left at the end of a year, when we turned it around, and then I fell out, you know, when I was writing this all up in the book I wrote, I said, you know, what I learned from that exercise, that period of my life was, for short periods you get to play with the whole train set, and then there's always some bastard who wants to take it away. And the bastard is usually a rather boring, sort of system-orientated board or something.
Because whilst I was talking about setting goals, it would be wrong to say that you had any sort of career plan at all. Or am I being unfair?
Well, I left school to be a trainee manager at Marks and Spencer.
Which lasted, what, about 8 months or so?
No, it didn't last that long. They fired me by Christmas.
I understand you hold a record at Marks and Spencer, don't you?
Yeah, only one. I set up the all-time broken biscuit record. Because I was so bored, I used to see how fast I could get around the stockroom with this pile of biscuits. And I turned it over, you know. But it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I left school, you know, I wasn't very good at school. I didn't pass much. And I remember my mother always saying to me, well, it'll be like that when you go to work, you're going to have to buckle down. And I remember going to work and I tried to buckle down and I thought, this is terrible. They can't really mean you've got to do this for 40 years. And they fired me. And they said, we don't think you're suitable. I said, yeah, you're not joking.
I mean, do you ever wake up in the middle of the night as a cold sweat, thinking that you might be a sort of Marks and Spencer store manager?
No, years later, when I first started getting publicity at TVM, I remember, because I've always held grudges, you know, so I just waited. And they interviewed me in some newspaper. They said, do you wish you'd gone into television? Because I didn't get into television until I was 30. They said, do you wish you'd gone into television earlier? And I said, no, everybody should start work at Marks and Spencer's because life only gets better after that. And Lord Seif, who was then the chief executive of Marks and Spencer's, phoned up David Frost and said, I see you're employing one of our boys now. So they noticed.
And I noticed in your autobiography that the first 30 years of your life is confined to just 20 pages. Now, does that mean that the first 30 years were irrelevant to what happened next? Or were there some influences or events within the first 30 years which, in a sense, determined success more recently?
I don't know. I came from a very happy but very conservative for the small C family background. And when I got fired by Marks and Spencer's, my dad said to me, my dad, who was an insurance salesman, said, I can get you a job in the insurance. And I thought, no, I don't want to do this. That's not what I want to be. And I got a job in newspapers when I was 18, and that was at 19, and that was a great job as a young local paper reporter. That's a great experience because suddenly, you know, I always wanted to be more than I was. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly, you're talking to counsellors and you think they're important. It takes you 20 years to discover that they don't matter a toss. So at 19, it was, you were, you know, really important, really responsible. You know, I mean, people here probably see stuff in their local papers about their business and get really upset about it. Well, that's the sort of stuff I used to write, really. So I enjoyed that. No, I mean, the turning point of my life was really was when I was 24. And, you know, I had no A-level. Well, I had one grade E in maths, which I saw my maths teacher in a pub years later, and he said, I still quote you, Dyke, as why not to give up at the mocks, because miracles can happen. So I had one grade E in maths, and I got a place at university, and I suddenly decided that if you don't go to university, I think, you always, certainly in those days, you always think that there's all these clever people who've gone to university. You know, I remember when I was in newspapers, I sat in the office of one paper, and the next door was our sister paper, that was the upmarket paper, and sitting there was a guy called Ray Snoddy, who went on to be the media editor of the Times. That's a good mate. But Snoddy, because he'd been to university and played chess in the office, we all thought was an intellectual. You know. And I think if you don't go to university, and going to university with no qualifications, because York University gave me a chance to change my life, really, because I went from being a pop journalist to being someone who got fascinated by sort of intellectual, not that I'm in any way an intellectual, but you know, I got fascinated by the whole process. And of course, if you go at 24, you work a lot harder than if you go at 18.
But it's true to say, though, at 30, you were a failure. At 30, you were
That's
unemployed.
Nice of you to say so.
You were unemployed.
I don't feel that much better today, I should tell you.
But you're unemployed and in debt, and then 15 years later, you're a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
So what happened from that point? 'Cause I think you were on Clapham Common, sort of thinking about your life.
Wandsworth Common. Yeah, I was. On my 30th birthday, I was unemployed, and I was thinking, what happened to me? You know, why didn't I do anything or get anywhere? And then I got a job at London Weekend Television and went through the ranks pretty quickly. Left when they told me I shouldn't leave, because, you know, all organisations tell you, oh, don't leave, you've got a wonderful career here. Well, you know, I left. My boss wrote on my leaving card, fuck off, Dyke, and don't come back.